I'm going to try 8 of the most common wood finishes on various pieces of uncommon wood to create a reference for future projects where I'll be using this kind of wood. I have stained and unstained driftwood logs and planks cut up to pieces, as well as some plywood, also stained and unstained. I'll be applying each finish according to the manufacturer's instructions, using as many coats as needed until the surface looks fully finished. Everything has been prepared, so let's get started. Tung oil is the most popular natural wood finish, made from the seeds of the tung tree. It's commonly used on furniture, cutting boards, and wooden tools because it penetrates deep into the wood and creates a durable, water-resistant finish that is also food-safe. It cures slowly, and applying multiple coats can take several days. After applying the first coat, I wait about an hour, then wipe off any excess oil. After that, I let it cure for at least 12 hours before applying the next coat. This process is repeated until the finish looks complete. Osmo TopOil is a hard wax oil specially designed for wooden countertops, tables, and other indoor surfaces that need durability. The natural version is made to preserve the original light color of the wood without darkening it. It gives a smooth, matte to satin finish and provides strong protection against water, dirt, and household liquids. No more than 2 thin coats should be applied according to the instructions. The natural version of Osmo TopOil contains white pigments specifically designed to counteract the darkening that usually happens when oil is applied to pale wood. On light-colored wood or driftwood, it can actually make the surface look a bit lighter or whiter, almost like a subtle whitewash effect. This does not appear to be a good choice as a wood finish for driftwood decorations. Once fully cured, it's water-repellent and food-safe. Danish oil is a blended wood finish made from natural oils and varnish. It's commonly used on furniture, interior woodwork, and crafts, and gives a warm, low-sheen finish that brings out the grain. It dries faster than pure oils and offers moderate protection against moisture and wear. It's water-repellent and food-safe once fully cured. Apply the oil with a cloth or brush, then wait a few minutes before wiping off the excess. Allow up to 8 hours for drying before applying additional coats. Teak oil is a penetrating wood finish often used on outdoor furniture, boats, and dense hardwoods. Despite the name, it's not just for teak wood. It enhances the grain and provides a warm, slightly golden tone. It offers good water resistance and UV protection, making it well suited for exterior use. It is not food safe, so it should not be used for anything that gets in contact with consumables. Teak oil is applied generously with a brush or cloth and allowed to soak into the wood for 15 to 30 minutes before wiping off any excess. Each coat should dry for 8 to 24 hours, depending on the conditions and product instructions. The process is repeated for 2 to 3 coats, or until the desired finish is achieved. The next one is cheap boiled linseed oil from the hardware store's own budget brand. The can got messed up, so I poured it into a jar instead. Boiled linseed oil is a traditional wood finish commonly used to enhance and protect wooden surfaces like furniture, tool handles, and garden implements. It can also be used as a concrete sealant. The oil penetrates deeply, bringing out the natural grain and giving a warm, rich finish. While it offers moderate water resistance, it is not considered food safe and is therefore unsuitable for surfaces like cutting boards or kitchen utensils. Boiled linseed oil is applied with a cloth or brush in thin, even layers. After about 20 minutes, any excess is wiped off to prevent a sticky surface. Each coat needs at least 24 hours to dry before applying the next, and 2 to 3 coats are usually enough for a complete finish. Beeswax is a natural wood finish used to give surfaces a soft sheen and light protection. It's easy to apply and is often used on furniture, decor, and other low-wear items. While it doesn't offer strong water resistance on its own, it can be applied on top of other finishes, like oil or shellac, for extra shine and added protection. Beeswax is food safe if it's 100% pure. This one also contains orange oil, so it's not considered food safe. Beeswax is applied with a soft cloth, working the wax into the surface in a circular motion. Let it sit for 20 minutes so the oils and wax can soak in, then buff off the excess with a clean, dry cloth. If the wood absorbs everything quickly, more coats can be applied after a few hours or the next day to build up a richer finish. Gloss Clear Coat Spray is a fast-drying, transparent finish that adds a smooth, shiny surface to wood, metal, or painted objects. It's commonly used on decorative pieces, furniture, and crafts to protect the surface and enhance depth and color. On porous wood like driftwood, several coats are often needed to build up a visible gloss. Once fully cured, the finish is water-resistant, but not food-safe. Gloss Clear Coat Spray should be applied in multiple thin coats to avoid runs or drips. Shake the can well, and spray with light, even passes. Wait as long as recommended on the can between coats, usually just a few minutes. After the final coat, allow the surface to cure fully for over 24 to 48 hours for best durability. Matte Clear Coat Spray is a transparent finish that protects wood, metal, or painted surfaces without adding shine. It gives a soft, flat appearance and is often used when you want a natural, low-reflective look. It's great for decorative items, crafts, or projects where gloss isn't desired. The application method is the same as with the gloss one from the previous chapter. Each piece has been treated with as many coats as needed to achieve water repellency. At this point, water forms droplets that either roll off or wipe away easily, indicating that the finishes are complete. The top row of bright plywood shows how each finish looks on a light, untreated surface, serving as a reference for the base color of the finish itself. You can already see the yellow tint in most of the finishes just by looking at the liquid itself, and that carries over to the wood. Only the Osmo and the 2 clear coat sprays are not yellowish. The purpose of this experiment is to find out what finishes to use on my upcoming kitchen table/computer workstation made out of driftwood planks and logs that I have hoarded on my hikes for the last months, and to get an idea of what could look best on other crafts and creations where driftwood is involved. The driftwood plank turned out extremely dark with most of the finishes, for reasons I'm not entirely sure of. It could be that this particular piece of wood reacts differently. To compare, I treated a second plank with a couple of coats, and that one didn't turn nearly as dark. This piece turned out really well, so it's definitely a strong candidate for the tabletop. The natural driftwood logs also got quite dark, so that's a no-go for the table feet. The natural driftwood logs also got quite dark, but I do want the table feet to be dark, so the Tung oil is a potential candidate for the feet too. The stained log turned out okay, a nice amount of shine but not too much. Got some interesting results on the stained plywood. It really brought out the grain and gave it different color shades too. The Osmo TopOil gave everything a matte white look, which can be quite nice for various crafts where you want to preserve the natural bright color and look, but also have a finish on it for protection. For my driftwood table, this is not a potential candidate though. It turned out quite horrible on dark wood. This piece turned out quite nice and it preserved a natural look. A bit white here and there, but that could possibly have been reduced if I really massaged the finish into the wood. Some clear coat spray on top of this and it could probably have become quite nice. The Danish oil from Rustins is my favorite when it comes to preserving the natural look. That weird piece of plank that usually becomes dark turned out beautiful with this finish. It was also easy to apply and didn't take 100 coats to finish. On the stained log, the result looks quite a lot like matte clear coat spray, only more detailed while the CCS has a more blurry look. Danish oil would have been my preferred choice for the tabletop, but unfortunately, this little can set me back $21, so it would be way too expensive to use that, so I'll save the Danish oil for smaller crafts instead. Next up is some random teak oil I found lying around. The natural log has a bit of a yellow tint to it. It looks a bit fatty too, but over time that might fade. For the table feet, it is a good candidate. This piece preserved the natural look and got a little bit of a nice shine to it now. And this became very dark too, so I made a comparison piece for the teak oil as well. This one doesn't look so bad. A bit fatty finish to it though. The stained plywood looks pretty nice. The last oil finish out is this cheap boiled linseed oil from the hardware store's own brand. This doesn't look so bad. So for the feet, I think this will be my choice as it is the most cost-effective and I don't have to order it online. A bit fatty look, but hopefully that will fade over time. The stained log got a nice finish to it. It also has a clear coat spray look to it. This darkening of the wood baffles me, so I did some research and came up with this explanation. Wood darkens when oil is applied because the oil enhances the natural grain and color, making the wood look richer and deeper. The deeper the oil penetrates, the more it fills the wood fibers and changes how light interacts with the surface, absorbing more light and reflecting less, which makes it appear darker. Dry, porous wood like driftwood absorbs much more oil and darkens significantly, while denser or less absorbent wood tends to stay lighter. In some cases, pale or weathered wood may have originally been darker, and the oil restores some of its original tone by resaturating the faded surface. So in the case of these plank pieces that turned so dark, they were very dry and absorbed a huge amount of oil. They might also have been darker originally, but became lighter after laying outside for potentially many years. On the stained plywood, we can see how well it brought out the grains. I bought this one because it's a top seller on Amazon. It's not pure beeswax, but a combination of beeswax and orange oil made for easier application. 100% pure beeswax usually comes in hard blocks and has to be melted or softened before it can be applied. This resulted in pretty much the same look as the oils, so I guess I'll try to order some pure beeswax and try that in another video on various wood types. Not really much difference on the stained log, even though the surface is sealed and I have polished it quite a lot. I did check out the pictures and the reviews on the store page, and this finish does look very nice on real wood and furniture. Getting a nice finish on this old crappy driftwood is another story. Not really much difference on the stained log, even though the surface is sealed and I've polished it quite a lot. I did check out the pictures and the reviews on the store page, and this finish does look very nice on real wood and furniture. This one became extremely dark, so that's a no-go for the tabletop. The stained plywood looks pretty cool. It really brought out the grains. The last one's out is cheap gloss and matte clear coat spray from the hardware store. Nothing special about it. Number 7 is gloss and 8 is matte. The matte on the right looks okay, while the gloss in the middle doesn't look very natural. To preserve the natural look but get protection and a wee bit of shine, matte clear coat spray is a good choice. Gloss can also be used when you want a shiny look, like on this Kool-Aid chest I made in a previous video. In this case, the gloss looks better than the matte version would, so it all boils down to what type of look you are aiming for. Not a huge difference between the matte and gloss here, but I might have sprayed on a bit too much matte. The more coats you apply with a matte finish, the more shine it tends to develop. The gloss one does have sharper details to it, while the gloss one looks more blurred. The matte one looks great here, while the gloss one looks quite unnatural. The matte one looks good here, while the glossy looks quite unnatural. The color also got a bit darker, which made it look better. Not sure why that happened though, as the natural log didn't change color. I had to do some research here too. It turns out that even though both are driftwood, the surface of the plank likely absorbed the clear coat more deeply, either because of how it was cut, how much grain was exposed, or even differences in the wood type itself. That absorption enhances the grain and darkens the tone, while the log's more weathered and rough surface didn't take in as much finish, so its color stayed mostly the same. It did indeed take quite some rounds of spraying before the coat settled. The first ones just disappeared in a few seconds, so this particular plank was kinda like a sponge for finishes, thus making it a bad example to use for this video, although we did learn a lot from it. Then there's the stained plywood, which also got a bit darker after I applied the clear coat spray. That's because stained wood already has pigment and contrast, and the clear coat enhances that by making the grain more visible and adding depth to the color. The finish reflects more light off the surface, which makes everything look richer and slightly darker. The bright driftwood log, on the other hand, didn't darken at all, and that makes sense. It doesn't have much visible grain or natural contrast, so there's nothing for the clear coat to enhance. The surface is also dry and weathered, so the finish likely just soaked in without creating a reflective layer. It's simply too washed out to respond the same way denser or stained wood does. After a lot of pondering, I've decided to go with Rustins Danish Oil on the feet. Since the tabletop will probably be quite dark, I want the feet to stay as natural colored as possible to create some contrast. I will probably have to order another can to cover all 4 feet though. For the actual tabletop, I'll go with boiled linseed oil, mainly because it's the cheapest option and I'll need quite a lot of it. It also looked pretty good on the comparison piece. Hopefully the wood I've harvested won't behave like that sponge-like plank that turned so dark. Normally, the best thing to do would be to test the finishes on pieces of the same material you're going to use. But in my case, that's not really an option. I've got a bunch of different materials, and I can't exactly chop off pieces from the parts I plan to use. So, I'll just have to hope for the best and see how it turns out. And that was that for this experiment. Thanks for skipping around. If you have any input, feel free to drop them in the comments.